Good morning, everybody. I am Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and I'm here with my co-host, Kelly.
Good morning, everybody, and Roadkill crew.
Yeah, the Roadkill crew. So you see our monikers down there for Nightmare Road, SOS, and Dirty Birdie. So, yeah.
I'm still not over the handle that somebody gave me. I still find it hilarious.
It's pretty funny. Today, we are kind of dovetailing off the last one that Kelly and I did on the Ascended Masters. If you haven't watched that podcast, you might want to go back and watch that podcast because it's pretty interesting, because now we're leading into one of the Ascended Masters called the Count of Saint Germaine.
Yeah.
Kelly, tell me a little bit about this guy.
This guy, super interesting. I mean, he just shows up out of nowhere in 18th century Europe and goes around from country to country courting all these high mucky muck people, I guess you'd call them, like kings, queens, counts, anything like that, running in and just talking with people like Voltaire and Casanova, people like that, and they're blown away by this guy that just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's interesting. You said Casanova because it was really interesting, because I read that he was quite the had the sexual prowess about him, and Casanova was actually very upset with this guy.
Yeah, yeah, he could woo the ladies, and Casanova thought he was, the top dog doing that, but he would show up and woo the ladies right out from under him, and he show up, visit for a little bit, disappear, and if anybody brought up his name in Casanova's presence, he would get visibly irritated.
Yeah. So you said that he was with the kings and the queens and the courts in France. He was in Scotland. He was all over the board.
Yeah, all over the place.
And he was with royalty all the time. And there's a lot of doubt and confusion about where he was actually born, who he really was. And he has been seen for centuries.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there's conflicting data on where he was born, but I did come across something in an article that said when he was on his deathbed, he admitted that he was born to a prince of Transylvania.
Yeah, that was one of them I read.
Yeah.
Was he legitimate or illegitimate? I couldn't figure that out.
Don't know for sure.
So I've read that there was 3 different stories, but if you that he was a descendant of a Transylvanian prince, or he was the illegitimate son of the widow of Charles the 11th of Spain, or that he was the illegitimate son of the King of Portugal. So, but then there's stories that said he was seen 70,000 years ago in the Saharan desert that he was known. So I don't.
Yeah, it's really bizarre that he's been seen at different periods of time. I did come across that he would go from place to place and seek knowledge from all these other knowledge seekers, or like well-known knowledge seekers. Like he went to Egypt, he went to Egypt, and all these places of like spiritual power to learn things.
Yeah.
And
well, let's get into some of the bullet points that I wrote out about this guy, because he's a fascinating character. He was allegedly a real person. I mean, this is not like a mythological person. Just like Jesus was a real person. he was a real person, but and let's show a photo. Well, it's not a photo, it's a drawing of him, and they're all like, I went through so many websites trying to find more information on this guy, and all of the things that I see is that this is, I don't know if it's just because this is how the internet works, and this is the picture, the portrait that is him on all the websites. Now there's different versions of him having a really long beard and things like that, but this is the Count of Saint Germain.
Yep.
Okay, so he was
He was a good looking guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, Casanova, right? But see, he had all of these almost mystical powers about him that would create that allure to whoever was, he was attracted to. They would be instantly attracted to him, right? Because if everything that's written about this guy is true, then heck yeah. I mean, if he could bet anybody he wanted to.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, yeah, and apparently he could talk his way into things. He could talk his way out of things,
uh-huh. Yeah.
and
So his talents included, among just a few, um, chemistry, alchemy, music, magic. Now, in music, he could play almost any instrument. He was incredibly gifted. In magic, he was apparently very, very skilled with magic, and and he also had the gifts of telepathy, and he could sway people with his thoughts.
oh, I didn't come across that.
Yeah, he it was really interesting. And then in chemistry and alchemy, he allegedly, would this make sense if these stories are true at all, that he made an elixir of continual life? Like he could, and you had a story back when we were doing Mount Shasta of a gentleman who met, well, who said he was the count, right?
Yeah. Um, no, I forgot his
Don
name.
Don something or another. I forget. Anyway, he was hiking Mount Shasta. He ran into somebody who said he was the Count of Saint Germain, who gave him an elixir to drink.
Yeah,
Who then took him to a spiritual. I mean, it sounded like he ingested like mushrooms or something, but
yeah,
it took him to a different spiritual plane of existence for like the
it was,
rest of his life.
yeah, it was like some kind of a elixir of enlightenment or something like that.
Yeah. What's interesting about the Count is that he had no visible means of support. It's not like people knew his family, but he had unlimited income.
Yep,
So, yeah, he could do anything he wanted with the drop of a hat. He had the means to do it, but nobody knew where the money came from.
I know,
You know?
I
Well,
know.
I mean, we don't know we don't know his lineage. So, if he was from a royal lineage, then yeah, that money is there. But if you don't know the lineage and that's into question, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not the lineage.
Well, what?
So he was seen quite often when he was walking around. He had encrusted jewels all over his clothes, including his shoes or boots or whatever. So my guess is that through magic and alchemy,
Hmm.
he produced these things
Yep,
because
that could be.
he could, and then he would cut them and shine them up. I came across that jewel painting. I didn't know what that was. So I Googled it, and it's the art of taking a cut gem and kind of just polishing it up until the light refracts and sparkles.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is that because wherever he went, he would woo all these social elites. They would, he'd be like, "Hey, I need a place to set up shop," and they're like, "Yeah, sure, here you go. Here's the cash. Here's the money. Do what you want." So he probably you didn't have to spend anything. People would just shack them up somewhere. But
Well,
I'm
he did.
guessing,
He did do that a lot.
I'm guessing through the art of alchemy, he produced these gems, cut them, shined them up, and when stuff was going down, he would just leaves and go to a port or whatever, and they're like, okay, it's going to be this much, and he's like, okay, rip a
Mhm.
jewel off his shirt and just hand it to him because he can
That
make
very
more.
well could be because it said that he could take a flawed gem and make it pure, right? So,
Yeah,
um, and that's through alchemy, right? So, like, okay, for example, sapphire. I visit sapphire mines every year, and I bring back the tailings. And the sapphires that you find, they're pretty, but they need to go through heat to bring out the clarity. So they're real sapphires, but the heat in a kiln with certain gases, whatever color the natural sapphire is, because it can be any color, that heat brings out the intensity of the sapphire. So most are heat treated. It doesn't mean they're fake. They're heat treated to bring out the intensity. The ones that are, so if he's an alchemist and a chemist, he understands all that. He got all of it. He somehow learned it all.
yep.
Yeah, so
So,
heat treating. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and nobody says to a pretty shiny rock back then.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, shiny rocks are really pretty. He
He was
was
also
huh?
he could take diamonds or like pieces of a diamond and merge them together into one big diamond, and it wouldn't lose its weight. So you take like
Now, I
four,
don't
one
know how
carat.
you would do that.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how would you do that? I don't know how you would do that. I don't know. So he seemed to have unlimited gifts, like skills and gifts, and some of them seemed they were mystical about him. He was considered a prophet, but he was also considered a charlatan, a healer, like a natural healer, and a spy and a visionary. So it was like he was everything. He was just this incredible mix of, like, I guess almost like if you needed him to be a healer, then he was a healer for you. But maybe if you questioned him, you would consider him a charlatan because he wouldn't give you any of those skill gifts. You
Yeah.
know?
So yeah, somebody said it best. He's the man that never dies and knows everything.
Yes. One of the things that's really interesting about him is that he's the founder of Freemasonry, and the Masonic lodges are still right.
I don't think he was. I don't think he founded it. It was already around, but they
I read
consider him. They consider him part of it. Like he's
I
part of
read
it
in several
somehow.
places he was the actual founder, but I don't know.
I
Again,
don't know.
this is part of the allure of this guy is we really don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But he inspired, allegedly, the founding fathers of America. So
Oh yeah.
when they were coming, when the colonists were settling in America, it was his vision, and he let's see, apparently,
He had to be there for the signing of the Declaration
well,
of Independence and gave a speech.
that's what it's. Yeah, I read some of that, but here's what was interesting is that they credit him with inspiring America's founding fathers to draft the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and he was provided the design of the Great Seal in the United States. If that's true, I don't know. Who knows about this guy? Um, so yeah, my notes are just like this guy was everywhere. Some say that he actually wrote most of the works of Shakespeare,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
that's a real good kind of conspiracy theory that Shakespeare didn't write any of his plays. He
right,
had a ghostwriter do it
yeah,
or
and
something like that.
that it was the Count, and that there's, and I don't know. I want to read. I want to really dive into that. This part of it is that there's hidden codes in Shakespeare that he put in there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's new.
yeah,
That's
I read about
interesting.
that in several places last night, and I thought, well, that's interesting.
Code for
Others
what
say,
though?
well, I don't know. That there's secret codes. Others say he was the scientific genius known as Bacon. So,
Yeah.
did you read that?
No, I didn't come across that. All I know is that when he moved from place to place, he would change his name,
Mm,
which would make sense if he's doing all these fantastic things because people are going to want to steal that information.
yeah. He was known as the avatar of the age of Aquarius, as considered an ascended master on par with the world's greatest spiritual leaders.
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't you
So
explain what the ascended masters is? Who didn't watch that episode?
so the gist of it is an ascendant be people like Mother Mary, Jesus, um, major religious figures in all all over the world. And what an ascended master is someone that when they die, they retain their memories. Like when we're born and we're growing up, we don't retain all those memories, but these ascended masters are,
You mean of previous incarnations?
yeah.
Yeah.
So when they're born, they've got, they're like, uh, mostly nice people. They die, they were, but they remember that, you're supposed to be nice, kind, help other people, stuff like that, and then they die, come back, and they still retain all this knowledge until they become an ascended master, which,
So like if you were a chemist in your previous life, as you're growing up, all of that chemistry would just be there.
yep, all that chemistry knowledge would still be there.
Yeah. So we would call those people, we term them idiot savants, right? In a phrase, like somebody who was born, they're 5 years old and they're playing Mozart, you know?
Yeah.
It's like they're born with this knowledge. Nobody knows where that knowledge is coming from. I don't like that term because idiot, savant, I don't, but it was
Well,
coined, I think, to say that they were unknown. It's an unknown.
well, yeah. I mean, from some of the descriptions I read about this guy, he was quite odd. And then they
Yeah.
described him as mad. You never, yeah. I was
Yeah.
talking, I was talking to about this to somebody else, and they're like, he sounds like a savant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Who can just like pick up a violin and play it? No chemistry, no alchemy, no magic,
Right.
no different languages, and just, yeah, it's
Well, that is that we would call that a savant, right? They're born with these gifts that we don't know where that comes from. We don't understand where it comes from and
I
how
mean,
they have that ability.
yeah, I can understand maybe like one or two, but five, that's that's a big brain going on right there.
Well, I mean, he's ascended, so every time he had come back, he just increases the knowledge and increases the knowledge. It's supposed to be in the theory of reincarnation. That's why you come back. It's not only to work out your problems so that you're ascending, right? So that karmically things get better and better and better, and your knowledge base expands, and you become more helpful and more loving and all of this. But he's at a whole different level than what normal people would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you keep coming back. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've come back multiple times, but I still haven't worked any shit out. So I figured that out. So,
Well, yeah, I could see how that would be considered odd and strange. Is that, I mean, yeah, people back then, like I don't know, like drop one of us off in the 18th century and have us run around and talk to people. Dress
right.
up like them, run around and talk to people, and be like, "Oh, well, what do you think about this?" And you're like, "Well, this, and this is going to happen." You're like, nah, no, it won't. And then it does, and they're like, well, how did you know that? And you're like, I'm going to
No.
go that way because I'm
Yeah,
going to
right.
get burned at the stake.
Well, what's really interesting about him is that he also had paranormal powers to him. So he had the ability to teleport. He had the ability to levitate, to walk through walls, and then again, um, telepathically, he can influence people and read their minds. He can influence them with his thoughts, and then he could read their minds. So he had that. He had powers above and beyond what the normal human being has.
Yeah, that would probably explain how he could disappear just at the blink of
Yes.
an eye.
Yes.
Talk his way out of jail.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, and then be gone. So he the one of the things I found really interesting about him, and I've read that a few people are known to be able to do this, but he was ambidextrous, which isn't a huge deal, but he could write two things at the same time. So, like in his left hand, he could write a letter to somebody, and it like he's writing a letter, and then with his right hand, he could write poetry. And so when he was done with both simultaneously, they're as you would just sit down and write one piece. Or he could write the same thing, like the letter with both hands at the same time. So they were exact duplicates of each other.
hmm.
That's really interesting. I've seen people now allegedly, if they're able to do this and there wasn't any kind of trick to it, where people are able to write two things at the same time. It's really, really, really rare. But and I've seen people being able to write backwards. Again, pretty rare. But yeah, he kind of had it on a different level. The Masons and the
Yeah,
Rosicrucians,
this is a rare dude. That's why everything with him is so rare.
yeah, like nobody else has been able to do what he's done, right? The Masons and the Rosicrucians credit him with inspiring, oh, we talked about this, the Declaration of the Independence and the Constitution and the Great Seal of the United States. But he's considered, and I don't understand exactly what this means, okay? The Cosmic Master Ray. You ever heard of this?
Nick, say that again.
Cosmic Master Ray, which means he governed one of the seven metaphysical principles that rule the soul. And I'm lost. I have never heard of this.
Yeah, that sounds like the top tier. I don't. Have you ever heard of Dante's Inferno?
Mm-hmm.
So there's seven layers of hell, and then there's seven layers of heaven. But maybe that's part of it. But
I don't
like
know.
it's the tippity toppity. You can't go any higher than that. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that everything has seven layers because even like there's seven chakras in the human body. I mean, it's interesting. So, um, we've talked about that he is supposed to be considered immortal, that he's just been around like forever. I don't know if he's still around or, I mean, okay, so if this last, well, it wouldn't be his last life because he was seen, but 1920s in Mount Shasta area.
Yeah, I think he
So
was seen in the 1970s. So he pops up every once in a while.
Yeah, odd. But he's never young. Have you
No,
noticed that? Like
no,
any of the
he's
stories.
always yeah, he's always shows up and he looks like he's in his mid 40s.
Yeah,
And
yeah, or
he
even
never yeah, he never ages. I mean, there was a lady that wait, mouse is okay. Wake up. There we go. There was a lady that ran into him and it was the Countess von Gregory in 1760. Um, she met him at a soiree, at the home of Madame de Pompadour, mistress of the King of France. Um, she was curious because she had known the Count while in Venice in 1710. Upon meeting him again, she was wait. She met him again and was amazed to see that he hadn't aged at all.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah. Um, and then he was also a prophet who was seen with Marie Antoinette and warned of the French Revolution. So
yeah,
he's,
he showed up at where was it? Was it the Hague?
oh, I
Oh,
think I remember reading something about that.
yeah, I think he showed up in France and was like, hey, I got to talk to whoever, and they're like, why? And they're like, it's going down. Nah,
Yeah.
nah, and he's like, no, listen to me. He's like, it's going down.
Yeah. And then he is credited with this New Age religion movement called I Am, which is so he was kind of the leader of the whole New Age movement as well. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, so that's what the Age of Aquarius came in, but that was like 1970s, 60s, the Age of Aquarius. That was a huge hippie movement, kind
in
of,
like
and
'68 or something like that.
yeah, somewhere right in there. It was Vietnam era, right? So it was
Mhm.
the Age of Aquarius, and hey, sorry, dogs. So he's just been credited with so many things that you're just wondering, is this real? I mean, are they just using this guy for a scapegoat for everything? Or I don't know,
Well,
because it's
yeah,
nothing written by his own hand, right?
no, I don't think so. I think he did write some stuff.
Oh, there was a book that looks like a diamond that he wrote. It's shaped like a diamond.
Huh, interesting.
And he's allegedly wrote that.
But
I did see that online, but I don't know the text. Hey, stop it. Stop it.
yeah, he wrote, oh my gosh, he wrote a ton of music.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through it right now. Um, he wrote, yeah, I can't pronounce this. But he just wrote music like for operas, plays, and there's just a huge list. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, um, he did write something,
Okay.
and it was called, yeah, that's French. I can't pronounce that, but it's called the Triangular Book of Saint Germain. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know like if it's there's like copies made of it anywhere. I haven't have time last night to look into that, but I thought it was really interesting that
both his books are in the Manly Palmer Hall collection of
alchemy.
alchemical manuscripts at the Getty Research Library.
Hmm. But
So
I
they
wonder if
have
they're
them.
online anywhere for you to read.
No, you probably can't. Probably
So
can't get a hold of them.
I mean, here you have a guy who's allegedly lived some 70,000 years ago, and he pops up every once in a while. And he's unlimited funds. He can do all of these things. He has incredible powers about him. Um, and he's very influential. He can influence all kinds of people, and kings and queens and noble people and powerful people. You wonder where he is right now and what he's doing. Is he influence? Is he around and he's now learned to be quiet? And is he influencing world events? I don't know. I don't know.
Um, Another thing I came across is if you're into the spiritual, uh, yeah, if you're into the spiritual stuff like that, you can meditate on him and ask for guidance because that's what he does. Is that
Hmm.
you can be like, I need, because he's a teacher. He'll help you learn and point you in the right path that you're supposed to go.
Mhm.
So he's still, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's still around, like in the metaphysical sense, but every once in a while he'll pop into the physical realm and be like, "Here's where you're supposed to go." Don't,
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I think this is kind of a fascinating character, fascinating person. I mean, he was a real person. You don't know. I mean, my dad used to say, believe, oh God,
but
none of what
believe,
you read and half of what you hear, or something like
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
mean, the
something like,
internet just takes stuff and just spins it, and you
uh,
never know what the truth is.
yes,
I think it's half of what you read, none of what you hear.
yeah,
Something. It
something.
could be. I don't know. He used to say
Believe half what you see, and like no something none of
none
you
of what you
like.
hear.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
because
don't,
he used to say, because it's like gossip and the old. I don't know if you ever played that old game when you were a kid of telephone, when you have a whole bunch of kids in a room and you whisper something to one kid and then they have to whisper it to the next. By the time it gets all the way around, it's
it's completely
completely
different.
misconstrued.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing of our brain takes stuff and then you have great liars on the internet. So when you're reading articles by people, they've taken great liberties a lot of times, and then somebody else takes it and runs with it as truth, and it is so hard to
Yeah,
know on a story like this what's true, what's not. Who knows? I don't know, but it's a fascinating topic to mull over sometimes. Anyway.
yeah. I found this super interesting. All these stories of him just being able to walk, just walk up to 18th century elites and be like, here, this is who I am. This is what I can do. I can like just walk into just walk up
King's
to these
Court,
people and
yeah.
talk to them, and they're absolutely fascinated by him. And then he
wasn't
just,
he wasn't he somebody alleged he was a spy, and he
yeah,
actually got out of that as well. He
yeah,
influenced a king that he wasn't. And he was actually put into some kind of jail for like
yeah.
3 months, and then he
It was during
talked
one
his
of
way out.
yeah, it was one during one of those revolutions. He got locked into a jail cell with another kind of elite, and he described him as very talkative, kind of strange, odd, but he he did something. He like played the violin or something like they brought a violin in for him to play. And he's like, "Oh, I can play the violin like nobody's business." And they're like, "Really? Okay, here." And he just busts out a tune, turns on the charm, kind of like mind roll, and they're like, "Okay, he's not a spy," and kicks him out. And then he disappears.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy was something else. I don't know. He'd be a character to meet for sure. Anyway, if you've never heard about the Count of Saint Germain, I hope that you research this guy, because it's fascinating. He is a fascinating topic, and if he could do everything that is written about him, there hasn't been anybody else like him.
Nope.
He's one of a kind. He can do anything, and I think you got to wonder if somebody like that is around and he's still influencing like scientific discoveries and just and world events and everything else, because he's fascinating. If he can do all of this stuff, he's probably still around, but he's got a different name, and he's, who knows, who
Yeah.
knows. So uh, thanks for joining us today. We are always glad that we have people who are watching the podcast. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy researching different topics. If you have a topic, please let us know. Sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with topics because you're like, okay, we've been doing this for 3 years, almost 4 years now. What can we talk about next? So
Yeah. Always trying to find something new that hasn't been, done to death.
well, and that's what's impossible. Having something done to death, it's really, really tough. If you're talking, yeah, anything paranormal has been done to death. Anything odd has been done to death. But we're always trying to find a topic that interests us. please subscribe to the show and share it and tell your friends about it. We don't make any money on this. We just do it because we love it. And thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.